Okay, and back for another ape review. Shut up. Always the best timing. All right. So, we've heard this argument from a number of theists, but of course, we like to find all the finest theists on YouTube. This guy is so whack that not only will atheist YouTube no longer touch him, but most of Christian YouTube won't touch him either. But we've heard this argument from a lot of people. We've heard it from Darth Dawkins, from Jesus is Lord. So I found this video from Brett Keane a few days ago. And so just gonna take a look at this, do a little reacting, have some fun with it. Brett Keane is one of the most knowledgeable people on YouTube, right? So we all know this. If you're not familiar, be prepared to be amazed. All right. This is Evolution is Alive from the Brett Keane Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brett Keane, and you are watching and listening to the Brett Keane Show. Make sure you check out my international radio, God TV Radio, and when you get an opportunity, check out my shirts and my merchandise if you'd like to support me, and you can also donate through PayPal. The picture that you see on the right is supposedly the skeletal structure of a character scientists refer to as Lucy. She is literally the only specimen that scientists actually have where they claim that this is a transition of a primate that would eventually become a human. They claim that
But no, that's just not the way it works, is it? Like most theists, Brett has a very thorough, rigorous understanding of evolutionary theory.
This thing is 3 million years old, and it's the only model that they have where it shows any kind of similarity to a human whatsoever. You'll know.
What the fuck is he talking about now? It's the only model they have that shows any kind of similarity to a human whatsoever. Well, no, obviously, so we are primates, Brett. There is no transition from primate to human.
Notice up above that the skull on the thing is shattered. When they found the pieces that they believe are a part of the same skull, could you imagine that? Could you imagine being out in the field and having to pick up these little fragments that are covered in dirt, soot, and rock?
Yeah, it's a very difficult, tedious job, and thank goodness for those guys.
And you brush it off and then decide that you think that they go together in some kind of way. I mean, how would you even know?
That's not exactly the way this process works, right? But okay, we'll just let him go.
How would you even know if it's a part of the same skull when it's shattered into little pieces? And as you can see, there's barely any remnants. The entire structure of the skeleton was found in pieces, which is expected if you are looking back millions of years and you pick up a bunch of shattered bones.
Indeed. Hey, Daniel, thanks for coming back. Oh, yeah. Brojo, yes, as far as I know, he's still a Christian. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah.
What you won't find, unfortunately, is they don't have any other skeletal structures that they can point at and say, that's an ancestor of humans. This is literally...
And it's so clearly they kind of do. You're talking about ancestors of humans as if all. Yeah, see, he was talking about like the transition from primate to human, and now he's talking about the ancestors of humans. Like they're not one. There's not a lineage, Brett. It's not like you're gonna find the grandfather ape,
The only thing they got. This is the thing that they sell us on in science books. They have a bunch of shattered bones here and there, but not an entire model. And when you look at it, you can tell yourself that there's not really an entire model even to Lucy. This is all you got. If you were to go to Google right now, and
Lucy is like one of the oldest skeletons they found, and it's been found more recently, right?
you were to type in Lucy evolution, you're going to get over 1,000 different narrations, illustrations, images, CGI, you name it. And
Of course, yeah. There's lots of speculation around this particular fossil, right?
majority of them, they don't look anything like the other. Like, if you look at the image I have right here, you see several pictures, and all of these are supposed to represent Lucy.
I'm not certain about that. He looks like he's compiled these from various sources. I don't know if all of these are supposed to represent Lucy. There's one I'm almost positive is Brett evolved from a pig. Just look at that face.
One of them looks like a
manatee,
Planet
I
of the
think.
Apes gallery, doesn't it? You've got pictures where it appears as though Lucy is holding a child. They have no way of knowing.
Cartoons. I think they did actually sex this specimen, or had thought they did, which is why they named it Lucy, right? Because they assert that it was a female based on not sure what. There's a rational
By looking at those shattered bones, if this supposed female primate ever had children at all. There's no way to be able to tell if it ever gave birth. They don't know how it died.
Speculation.
They have all these theories and wild ideas, but there's literally nothing. To make matters worse, the skeletal structure that you see that we're looking at, they put it up in a museum, and they decided to create wooden hands for it and wooden feet, and also they created wooden features of the skull to make it appear as though it was more, when you look at it, it gives the appearance that it has human features. But
So they recreated the skull, and you think that they recreated the skull in order to make it look more human.
everything on it, from the
Okay.
hands to the feet to the now molded skull, are fake. They're generated, they're created by scientists in order to give this idea of what they theorize it may have looked like. And of course, nowadays they use computer diagrams. They let their computers theorize of what it might have.
Right. They use it to map out what the structure was most probably look like. Hey, Halsey, good to see you.
Looked like. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, is that we don't have any imagery whatsoever of what it actually looked like.
No, you have a fucking skeleton, Brett. It's a skeleton. A partial skeleton.
We have nothing. We just have these shattered pieces. And we have these thousands and thousands of representations on the internet of what Lucy may have looked like, or documentaries.
There was like a contest years ago. Does anybody remember this? They had a contest. So they could have like any old person, I think, like within certain parameters, you could like design what you thought. I think this is what he's pulling from. Like, I think they had a bunch of different people say, "Hey, what do you think that Lucy probably looked like?" And then they just had, it was like an art like a, like submit your art type of thing. And then they picked out of those. I'm pretty sure that was a thing.
Films and all this. There's nothing. And they're claiming that these bones are 3 million years old. Now, I don't know if many of you knew this, but scientists have screwed it up over 1,000 times, claiming that something is older than it is, and then it turns out that
Yeah, but this has been around for a long fucking time. They're able to do, like, way more effective dating. Good morning, Silverwolf. Good to see you. Yeah, like, and every time that scientists have fucked up something of that matter, like, every time that scientists mess that up, they go back and correct it. They say, oops, we made a goof, and then they go back and correct the information. They don't just, like, ride out the goof, right? That just doesn't happen in the scientific community. Like, they go back and they say, oops, we fucked up, and then they correct the information. Like, this has been going on. So, okay. Whatever.
Not. Or they find something and they claim that it's really old, and then they turn around and say, it's like quadruple as old as what we originally thought. The same thing goes with the universe. Originally, the idea was the universe was 13 to 16.
Hey, Math Pig.
Billion years old. We've listened to that sermon done by scientists for over 100 years now, claiming that the universe came from a Big Bang. But now, because of the telescope that we have and new technology, they're now claiming that the universe is actually quadruple as big. Now it goes from 13 billion years to 30 billion years.
I haven't heard that, but yeah, I mean, there's Big Bang Theory. It's a theory, like evolution theory, right? Right. But, like, cosmology is way different than archaeology, right? Like, we have representations here of all the things that have existed on Earth. We can dig them up, we can date them, compare them against each other. Like, you can't do that with Big Bang cosmology. What's up, Jill? Pray for Trump. Democrats plan to murder Trump if all else fails, and it has. Uh-oh. Watch out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can believe that science is a self-correcting system. As far as I see, science is simply a system that doesn't correct anything. It just simply gives a different...
But you just said that it does. You just said that when scientists makes a mistake, they admit their mistake, and they correct for it. That's what we were just talking about. That's what you just acknowledged, that it does. When they get shit wrong, they say, oops, we got shit wrong. And then they correct it.
Theory or some more bullshit or sells us on some more nonsense, but it never actually gives us any facts or evidence. And some people will say, well, that's what science is supposed to be. It's supposed to attempt to explain things, but does it actually explain anything is the question. No. There's no certainty, there's no 100%, and there's never going to be 100% as long as we keep on taking little pieces of crap that we find in the dirt or in caves and then try to misrepresent it as something that it's not, or try to theorize what something could have been when we have no idea what it actually was.
Like, discounting the thousands upon thousands of species that we have properly identified, categorized, classified, right? Like, we have all those, right? You're not denying all the, all the zebra skeletons and all that. No. But these ones, the dinosaurs, right? Like, the ones that are problematic for your belief system, those ones are just, they're full of shit, right? Like, you wouldn't say this about any other skeleton that they've unearthed, would you? Just
So this is one of the big reasons why I question evolution. When somebody brings me a bunch of pieces of bone sitting in a fucking shoebox and claim that's millions of years old, and supposedly that's related to me, how would
bunch
we...
of pieces of bone sitting in a shoebox. So you don't understand how this works. Right? You don't understand how thorough these people are, right? He's just like, oh, they're just like digging around in my backyard. I found some old dusty bones and I threw them in a shoebox and then I guessed it.
Even though we at this point in our society do not have the technology to be able to get DNA off of something that has been dead for 3 million years old.
I think, I mean, you're right and you're wrong. Because, like, all it has to have is tissue. Like, as long as there is tissue, you can get DNA from it. It just has to have some kind of tissue left.
We are limited whenever it comes to that. We can scrape the bone and all that, but here's the problem. In order to be able to do comparisons with DNA, we would have to have other subjects, and we don't.
And there's you have to have a sample to compare to. Yeah, that's the other component.
Lucy is literally the only thing that we got whenever it comes to a structural deal. And the fossils have been molested, as you can see. Just as I
Molested? He just said they've been molested.
said, if you were to go into a museum nowadays to look at this, they're going to show you a bunch of wooden parts that they created for it. Well, that's all I got to say. I mean, some of you out there, you don't care.
So even if for the sake of argument, you're to debunk one skeleton, just the Lucy skeleton, right? How does that say that all of evolution is a lie? Evolution is... How do you go from there to there?
You're not really interested. You don't really care what the truth is. You just simply want a different alternative to God, and that's fine. So be it.
Dude, we're looking for a scientific explanation. There are people who study this, presumably, who are even Christians. They're not even looking for an alternative to God. They're just following the evidence. Because we have, like, actual evidence.
But don't lie to
Physical evidence.
yourself, and don't lie to other people and act like you got a whole bunch of evidence when you don't. That's the first thing.
They do. They do. They have mountains and mountains of evidence. That's what you're complaining about. These are the bones in the shoebox, right? They're not in a fucking shoebox, right? They do exist. They're out there, as you said, in museums, in private collections, right? Like, but the evidence exists. These ain't mud fossils, bro.
That non-believers go to, they say, we got all this abundance of evidence. This is your evidence? This is what you claim to be the deal is? And here's one last thing to think about before I shut the video out. Why is it that Lucy's the only thing that they were able to piece together? How do we know that this is
not the only thing they were able to? They've been able to piece together, again, like thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of skeletons.
isn't just the bones of some disabled woman or someone who was suffering from some kind of condition?
I think they found that, if I remember correctly, and there's been some conflicting stories, I don't remember if they thought that she was, like, essentially this was the skeleton of either a child or an old person, for a reason, right?
If you were to find the corpse, a million-year-old corpse of a retarded person or someone who suffered from some kind of head deformity.
Okay, well, in the first case, you probably wouldn't know about it. Now, if they had an actual deformity in the skull, that's one thing, but they just, like, first of all, we don't even call people the R word anymore. That's not even a thing, right? But like, how would you know? You wouldn't be able to know. Like, if there was a physical deformity in the skull, that wouldn't necessarily mean that there was anything wrong with their brain. That's just your assumption.
How would you be able to tell the difference between it and a retarded or autistic ape? Think about it.
Because deformities in the skull don't cause autism or retardation necessarily.
That. How would you? There's plenty of human beings that are born every day that have problems with their skulls and with their body. There's a girl that's on YouTube right now that does videos where, guess what? She's got 2 heads. That's right. She's literally...
Is Brett Keane actually proving the point that I just made? I think so.
Sharing a body with her sister, and it gives her the appearance of having 2 heads. There's also a guy...
Oh, yeah. Conjoined twins. Yeah, right. I recently saw a video on conjoined twins where the one conjoined twin is getting married to a dude, and then the other conjoined twins but they share their bottom portion, so they share genitals, right? So that would be like really awkward, but anyway.
Guy that's on the internet that was born with a deformity where he actually has one eye in the middle of his head, and I'm not talking about the Fallout TV show where they try to goof.
What, like a cyclops?
And they call the young man the Cyclops. So people are born with these kind of issues. And there's no way to be able to dictate how old that skeleton is. Some people will say, well, it depends on...
They have, like, dating methods for bones.
How deeply it's buried. Do things not get buried deeper than normal? Is there times where there could be catastrophe in the environment?
I don't know, Brett. Maybe you should study like archaeology or something.
Find the cataclysms or plate tectonics that can cause things to shift in the earth. Of course there is. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled. God bless. Tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Okay, I don't know what all that was about. Yes, I do. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. These comments say, oh my goodness, they've been going at it. Halsey says there's 2 sides to evolution, the physical evidence and the interpretation of it. Very true. Different people have different interpretations of the evidence that exists, but nobody denies that the evidence exists, except, I guess, Brett Keane. I don't even hear Christians making this fucking argument. It's essentially saying the shit is made up. Care more about what I'm doing today than where I came from yesterday. A bunch of old ape bones, and all they got is thousands, but couldn't name one. Let's check this out just because I know, and I know if I look this up, oh look, there's one for hoax. The Australopithecus. Yeah, not much to it. And so the objective is kind of like filling in the blanks, like what is missing, right? And they come up with various models for how to do that. And so you get stuff like this. 3.2 million year old fossilized skeleton, remaining the most complete representative of human ancestors who were adapting to life on a changing landscape. And all this is showing them walking upright. I don't think that means what you think it means. Alright, well, that'll be about that. Point and laugh, point and laugh. Alright, well, it looks like it's about that time for me anyway. So I hope you all are having a lovely morning. It can only get better from here. And like I say at the end of every show, because I always say the same thing at the end of every show, much love, be well, and stay trusty.